We're in Tampa Bay, a typical city with urban suburbs, much like elsewhere in the US. And here, moms and families are facing similar struggles. Whether it's the rising cost of raising a family, work, or furthering education, everyone is spread thin. Motherhood is on the decline in the United States. The United States CBO estimates that the US will remain well below replacement rate through 2054. That rate will be 1.6 births per woman.
Population collapse due to low birth rates is a much bigger risk to civilization than global warming. One couple at the center of the pronatalist movement are Simone and Malcolm Collins from Pennsylvania. Simone, let me start with you, if I may.
Yes, as soon as societies basically reach a level of modernity where there is prosperity, gender equality, high levels of education, populations start to drop below replacement rate. That's a pretty serious problem if it seems like modernity and all the things that we consider to be good, like women's rights, like prosperity, like good quality of life, seem incompatible with flourishing humans.
What brought you to being a mother?
So I studied biomedical. I even wrote a letter to myself. I was like, this is what I'm gonna do, 5 years from now, I'm gonna be a doctor, make sure you stay on that career, Lauren, It wasn't until I had my first miscarriage that I realized how precious life really is and how hard it is for some people, to conceive.
Well, unfortunately, my first pregnancy, I had a miscarriage, and then we had our son, and unfortunately, he was stillborn, and then it was not until my fourth pregnancy that we had our daughter.
So now you have, how many kids do you have?
Seven living, yeah.
7 living kids, and tell me about, so you had miscarriages then?
That was my first time experiencing miscarriage. My heart has always went out to women who have experienced that, but it's not something that I could speak to because I personally never experienced it, thanks be to God, up until now. But I think through all the bad, it's actually given me a place of compassion and sympathy for women that have experienced this. It's been hard for me with just having that happen one time, but I can't imagine people who go through that again and again and again. I've had friends that have no children at all and they've had miscarriages. I think it also speaks to the movement. The number one thing that pro-lifers miss is that in order to make abortion unthinkable, we have to speak up about our miscarriages. And for me, I think that's the start of making abortion unthinkable. It starts with us sharing our stories, sharing that life was a life, no matter if it was 6 weeks or 14 weeks,
And how did, having those babies beforehand and then finally, getting to meet your daughter in person, how did that shape how you viewed life?
I've always been pro-life, and it just makes you think, how can someone take a precious life and get rid of it and throw it away?
Because those lives were so precious to you, the ones that you lost, and now
Yes.
your babies are so precious to you.
Unfortunately, the people, sometimes they don't understand the gravity of that choice.
Because I knew I had made a grave mortal decision that was, contrary to life, contrary to everything that my parents had taught me growing up, So this poor young lady was looking for support from her boyfriend. And all I gave her was the cold shoulder. And as I look back at that now, Savannah, I never asked her what her thoughts were. I never asked her what her feelings were. I never asked her if she wanted to have the baby. I was afraid, but I wasn't as afraid as she was.
I'm very empathetic toward the person. I have to be empathetic toward my own birth mother. So I'm very empathetic toward anybody who's going through that kind of trauma and trying to make a quick, fast, and hurried choice.
You know, do you know why she decided not to have an abortion, or have you ever thought about that?
I've spoken with the birth aunt before about it, and her story was just that she really, really loved us, and she really, really wanted to keep us. So she did everything she thought that she could.
Why do you think that abortion constitutional amendments have passed in other red states? What are some thoughts you have?
Oh, I can tell you, and this isn't going to be popular. When women started in the 60s and 70s using abortifacient contraception so that they could have sex like men, that's when Christianity almost waved the white flag on the whole issue of the dignity of the woman, of the intrinsic beauty of having children. And once women realized that they could have sex like men do, it changed the whole game. I mean, the Catholic Church literally gave up, they did not give up silently, but they've given up. When's the last time you heard a homily
They're
about,
apathetic, right? They're not speaking on it as much as they
and that was the first step, Savannah, because once that wall got torn down, now the inherent dignity of that which is to be created in the mother's womb, now we're eliminating that from even happening. And I think Christians in general have way too many of them are pro-choice, way too few of them are pro-life, and that's why even in red states, even in conservative states, unthinkable bills can pass.
How do we change that? Does it come back to education? Does it come back to heart posture? How do we change
It's going to take a lot of things. It takes advocacy at the federal and state level, but until God changes the hearts and the minds of men and women to the true gift that these babies are, until that happens, it doesn't make a difference what kind of law gets established. Until young men realize that you're to put a ring on that finger before you do anything beyond that, treat the woman with respect and dignity and honor, and then bring children in the world. God said in Genesis, he said, be fruitful and multiply. He did not say be fearful and minimalistic. And until we appreciate the gift that children is, I cannot tell you, Savannah, I love my daughter, Faith McKenzie, like no tomorrow. I would do anything for her. 22 years old, beautiful, beautiful young woman. But I miss my son. And what people, men in particular, have to realize is when you make the decision to choose death, that sticks with you for your whole life. It'll break your heart every day for the rest of your life. So until we learn to change the hearts and the minds of the voters, we're never going to be able to change the law, because the law is always going to dictate what we can and can't do. My law is his law. And whatever the law of the land is meaningless, because for me and my family, we serve the Lord. But until we start to these men and these women start to realize that decision that you make, it's gonna stay with you your whole life. Nothing would make me happier than for that to have been the voice of my son. But I won't get that opportunity because of my selfishness. So until we change the hearts and the minds of men, the laws are meaningless until that happens.